Namaste Bitya. Myself JVN Neha Seni from Physiotherapy and Diagnostics, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. Here I am going to tell you about the anatomy of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is derived from the Latin word the little brain. It is a part of hindbrain situated in the posterior cranial fossa. It is also present behind the pons and medulla oblongata separated from two structure by the cavity known as fourth ventricle. It is covered by tentorial cerebelli, which is a fold of dura mater, and it is connected to the brainstem by three cerebellar peduncles. In adults, the weight ratio between the cerebrum and the cerebellum is 1:10, and in infants it is 1:20. Cerebellum is a vital to control of rapid muscular activities like running, typing, playing the piano, and talking. Loss of cerebellar function causes incoordination of these activities. So, when you learn any motor skill, the role is done in your cerebellum. The functions are coordination of movement, cortex initiates it, and the cerebellum coordinates it. Cerebellum is the center of motor coordination. Cerebellar disorders causes incoordination, which is known as ataxia. The damage to the cerebellum causes lack of coordination like speaking, walking, tremor. Cerebellum consists of two laterally large hemisphere which is united by in the midline by the vermis. So in the midline we can see the vermis. The cerebellar surface is divided by numerous transverse fissures which is giving it a laminated appearance. One conspicuous fissure is the horizontal fissure. So this is the horizontal fissure which separates the superior and the inferior surfaces. So in the diagram we can see the two hemispheres of the cerebellum, and in the midline they are united with the help of vermis. The external surface of cerebellum presents the deep fissure in the vermis is primary fissure, or we can say the fissura prima. The primary fissure divides the cerebellum into anterior and the posterior lobe. So this is the main thing. The primary fissure divides the cerebellum into anterior and posterior lobes. So this is the anterior and the posterior lobe. This is the superior surface of the cerebellum. Then posterolateral fissure is there which divides the cerebellum into corpus cerebelli and the flocculonodular lobe. So the flocculonodular lobe is this lobe, and this is the corpus cerebellum, and here lies the posterolateral fissure. So this is the inferior view of the cerebellum. Here we can see the flocculonodular lobe with the blue color, and the posterior lobe with the green color, and anterior lobe with the red color. So this is the external surface of the cerebellum. Then we have the arbor vitae. Arbor vitae means the tree of life, which is the white matter of the cerebellum. So in the diagram we can see the white colored area which is appearing like tree. This is the arbor vitae. It is so called because of the tree like appearance, and brings the sensory as well as motor sensation to and from the cerebellum. So these are the cerebellar peduncles. There are three cerebellar peduncles, superior, middle and inferior, which are connecting the cerebellum to the brainstem. So this is the fourth ventricle, which is the cavity between the cerebellum and the brainstem. The peduncles are here. They are clearly demarcated. This is the original cadaveric cerebellum. Here we can see the largest peduncle is the middle cerebral peduncle, that is MCP. So above it lies the superior cerebellar peduncle, and below it lies the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So this is the cerebellum from the posterior side. Here we can see the deepest fissure, that is the horizontal fissure. It divides the cerebellum into two lobes, that is the upper and the lower, that is anterior and the posterior side, superior and the inferior. So horizontal lobe, the above area is the superior surface, and below the horizontal fissure this is the inferior surface. Then this is the primary fissure. It divides the superior surface into anterior and posterior lobes. So these are the parts of the vermis. From anterior to posterior we have the linguella, central, culmen, declive, folium, tuber, pyramis, and the uvula. So these are the parts of vermis. Now the cerebellum consists of the outer grey matter, which is known as cortex, and the inner white matter known as medulla. The medullary core is composed of incoming and outgoing fibers projecting to and from the cerebellar cortex. Medullary core also contains the nucleuses of cerebellum, which are 4 in number. So these are the cerebellar cortex. In the cerebellar cortex, we have three types of layers. That is outermost molecular layer, then middle is Purkinje cell layer, and the innermost is the granular layer. Then there is inside this we have the medullary center, that is the medulla. In the medulla we have deep cerebellar nuclei. These are the fastigial nuclei, nucleus interpositus, emboliform nucleus, globose nucleus, and dentate nucleus. So this is the microscopic image of the cerebellum. Here we can see the molecular, Purkinje, and granular layer, the three layers of the cortex. In the molecular layer we have stellate cells or basket cells. Stellate cells, these are so named because these are appearing like star-shaped cells. Basket cells, these are appear like a basket. Then in the middle layer the Purkinje cell layer is found, which are pyramidal cells. And the inner layer, there the granular cells are found, which are made up of granule cells and the Golgi cells. Then the deep cerebellar nuclei in the cerebellum are from medial to lateral side. This is fastigial, globose, emboliform, and dentate nucleus. So these are the four nuclei in the medulla. In the lobes of the cerebellum, we have the anatomical divisions. In the anatomically we have three lobes in the cerebellum, that is anterior, posterior, and floccular nodular lobe. Anterior lobe lies anterior to the fissura prima, and posterior lobe lies just posterior to the fissura prima, and there is floccular nodular lobe, which is a separate lobe. Then evolutionary division of the cerebellum includes the paleocerebellum, neocerebellum, and the archicerebellum. Archi means the oldest cerebellum, which is lying in very low animals, small animals. Archicerebellum is the posterior lobe. It is the vestibular part. It is formed by the floccular nodular lobe and the associated fastigial nuclei. It is lying inferior surface in front of the posterolateral fissure, and embryologically it is the oldest part of the cerebellum. It receives the afferent fibers from the vestibular apparatus of the internal ear via vestibulocerebellar tracts, and it is concerned only with equilibrium. Then we have paleocerebellum. It is the spinal part. It is formed by the midline vermis plus the surrounding paravermis and the globose and emboliform nuclei. Globose and emboliform nuclei are the deep cerebellar nuclei. This paleocerebellum is highlighted with purple color in this diagram. It receives afferent proprioceptive impulses from muscles and tendons. Proprioceptive impulses means the impulses of joint position and movement. So these impulses are receiving in this area, that is paleocerebellum, via spinocerebellar tract, and sends efferent to red nucleus of the midbrain. Red nucleus lies in the midbrain, so efferent of this area goes to the red nucleus of the midbrain. Then come to the neocerebellum, that is the cerebral part. It is highlighted with orange color in this diagram. It is the remaining largest part of the cerebellum, and it includes two important cerebral hemispheres plus the dentate nuclei. It receives the apparent impulses from the cerebral cortex, that is from the cerebrum, plus pons via cerebropontocerebellar pathway. It is very important pathway. It sends efferents to the ventrolateral nucleus of the thalamus, and it controls the voluntary activities of our body. So these are the functional zones of the cerebrum, that is in the midline vermis. Then lateral to it, it is the intermediate area and the lateral most part of the cerebellum. So this is the cerebral output, how the cerebellum is connected with the functional areas for a particular function. These are the subdivisions of the lobes. In the floccular nodular lobe, in the midline part, that is in the vermis part, we have the nodule. So here we can see this is the nodule part in the midline, and the corresponding hemispherical part is the flocculus. Then in the anterior lobe, the midline part is lingula in the anterior side, and there is no corresponding hemispherical part. Then behind the lingula we have central lobule, and the corresponding hemispherical part is ala of the central lobule. Then behind two central lobule we have culmen in the midline part, that is vermis, and corresponding area of the hemispherical part is the quadrangular lobule. Similarly, in the posterior lobe, the declive is the middle area, and the hemispherical corresponding area is the simple lobule, then tuber, The hemispherical area is the inferior semilunar lobule. Then folium, the hemispherical area is the superior semilunar lobule. Then pyramid, the corresponding hemispherical area is the biventral lobule, and uvula is corresponding to the tonsil. Then come to the white matter of the cerebellum. It consists of three types of nerve fibers, that is axons of the Purkinje, Mossy fibers, and the climbing fibers. The Purkinje fibers, these are the only axons to leave the cerebellar cortex to end in the deep cerebellar nuclei, especially the dentate nucleus. So these fibers are coming from the dentate nucleus. Mossy fibers, they end in the granular layer, and climbing fibers, they end in the molecular layer. So here we can see the climbing fibers which are arising from the inferior olivary complex. So climbing fibers are those fibers which arises from inferior olivary complex, and this complex lies in the medulla. There is a direct action of individual Purkinje cells, and these are very powerful, sharply localized fibers. While mossy fibers, these are the fibers from the spinal cord or brainstem which are coming to the cerebellum. They are having indirect action on the Purkinje fibers, Purkinje cells, and the granule cells. These are diffused, and there is thousands of Purkinje cells may be excited. Then this is the input and output of the cerebral cortex, in which we have seen the inputs are coming from the climbing fibers and mossy fibers, and the sole output from the cerebellum is by the Purkinje cells. So the cerebellar afferent pathway is formed from the cortex, that is the cerebral cortex, from the spinal cord and the vestibular nucleus, and the other areas. Then these are the inputs from the cerebellum. So this is the flow chart which is showing the inputs as well as the outputs to the cerebellum. Now the cerebellar efferent pathway, these are from the axons of the Purkinje cells. They synapse with the cerebellar nuclei, axons of the neurons from the efferent pathway. They connect the cerebellum to the red nucleus, thalamus, vestibular nuclei, and the reticular formation. So this is the flow chart for the efferent pathways, that is the outputs from the cerebellum. So this is the summary for all the fibers which are entering or leaving the cerebellar peduncles. From the superior cerebellar peduncles, these are the containing the fibers which are entering the cerebellum, like spinocerebellar tract, rostral spinocerebellar tract, and the fibers leaving the cerebellum are cerebelloruberal fibers, cerebellothalamic fibers. So in the middle cerebellar peduncles, we have only one type of fiber, that is pontocerebellar fibers, and in the inferior cerebellar peduncles, we include the afferent efferent fibers both. The afferent fibers include the posterior spinocerebellar tract, cuneocerebellar tract, and the fibers leaving the cerebellum are the cerebello-olivary fibers, cerebellovestibular fibers. These all are the different nuclei. Along with these are named along as per the nucleus in which they are entering. Then the applied. First is the ataxia. Ataxia is a neurological sign consist of lack of voluntary coordination of muscle movements. That includes gait abnormality. Gait means walking ability. It is causing incoordination of movement like dysmetria, past pointing. Dysdiadochokinesia, it is inability to perform rapid alternating movements like rapid supination and pronation. So there is errors in the rate, range, force, and direction of the movement. It can be gait ataxia, truncal ataxia, and limb ataxia. Truncal ataxia means a loss of coordinated muscle movements for maintaining the normal posture of the trunk. Gait ataxia means there is a lesion in the anterior lobe of the cerebellum which is causing gait ataxia, means walking style. Limb ataxia means the person is unable to touch any particular toy or anything. For example, in this there is a hold on finger or a toy in front of the child and ask him to touch it on the first try. The child with ataxia cannot do it. Then the second is the cerebellar lesions like dysarthria. Dysarthria means slowness or slurring of the speech. Incoordination of both arms, it is intention tremors. Cerebellar ataxia means intermittent, jerky movements. It can be fast or staggering, wide-based, unsteady gait. Nystagmus, it is due to impairment coordination of eye movements. So, incoordination of eye movements occurs and eyes exhibit to and fro motion. Combination of nystagmus, dysarthria, intention tremors constitutes Charcot's triad, which is highly diagnostic of the disease. Then the questions related to this topic include the right short note on deep cerebellar nuclei. So in this you have to mention about the deep cerebellar nuclei and their connections. Then the second question is cerebellar connections. Means in this we have to mention about the input as well as outputs of the cerebellum. Then the exercise for your file is draw label diagram of the cerebellum. In this you have to draw both these diagrams. In this we have mentioned about the different outputs and the inputs of the cerebellum. So this completes our topic, the anatomy of the cerebellum. Thank you.